Hey guys, so a little while ago I did a couple of videos on Anglicisms in French, so English words that are used in French either normally or a little bit strangely. And I mentioned the fact that a lot of languages do this, including English. There are tons of Frenchisms in English, some of which make sense and others are very, very odd. So I suggested the idea of doing this video, and that's probably been my most requested video in the past like month or two, perhaps of all time. You guys really, really wanted to see this video, so today I'm gonna do it. As I said in my last video, every language does this. This is by no means making fun of English or French or any language under the sun. It's literally just finding these weird things that have been borrowed into other languages and sort of looking at how they're used, and sometimes it's a little bit funny. The first word, which is actually two words, is au naturale, and yes, that is how we say it in English, au naturale. Usually how we use this is in reference to makeup, so if someone is not wearing any makeup, they are au naturale, or it can also refer to clothes if someone is completely naked. I'm pretty sure, again, I'm not French, so if at any point in this video I am mistaken about how this is used in French, please let me know in the comments if you know differently. But I'm pretty sure in French it's used the same way, because in French it literally just means natural, in its natural state. Usually in English, I do think we use it to refer to things related to the body, so, you know, being naked is au naturel, not having any makeup on, you know, having a naked face is au naturel, but I don't know, maybe we do use it for other things as well. The next word is resume, and this one is pretty exclusive to North American English. We use resume as the word for CV in the other parts of the world. In French, the actual meaning of the word is summary, so it's not used the same at all. In French, they use CV, which is the Latin curriculum vitae, and a lot of other English-speaking nations do use that as well, but for whatever reason, we liked it in North America, so that's what we call it. It does make sense when you think about it. Probably before there was like standard formatting for resumes, it was probably more so just kind of a resume of what you've done, a summary of what you've done. Sometimes we spell it with the accent, sometimes not, because in English, accents aren't required. We don't have any accents on any of our normal letters. So when we borrow words like this, I'm pretty sure most of the time it's kind of optional. The next one is déjà vu. So when I started learning French, at one point after I learned the word déjà and after I learned the word vu, I kind of put it together what the literal sense of this expression is, which is already seen. In English, I'm pretty sure in French it's used the same way, but in English it just refers to the sensation of when you feel like you've lived something already and you've already experienced it, but you haven't. No idea why we use the French word. It's possible that it relates to philosophy, because a lot of these words do, but that is the only time that I know of that we ever use these two words. It's just in this phrase, it's just to refer specifically to that sensation. And once again, the accents are optional. We do or do not put them, just depending on how we feel. The next one might be one of my favorites, and that's rendezvous. Literally, this means the command form of you come, presumably telling you to come to something, but in modern French, you can use it as a noun as well, a rendezvous in French. I'm trying to pronounce these anglicized so that you guys know what they sound like in English, but it's actually sometimes kind of hard. I want to say the French pronunciation. But anyway, rendezvous, as we say in English. In modern French, as the noun, it does mean a meeting, or I think it can also mean sometimes a date, or just when you get together with somebody, which is how we use it in English as well. But in English, presumably because French has sort of a, you know, classy type of sound to us, it adds sort of a level of mystery to it. So that when you say someone has a rendezvous, you don't just mean a meeting, you don't just mean a date. It's a little bit more mysterious, potentially even a little bit scandalous. You normally don't use this super literally. If you're just chatting with a friend, you don't say you have a rendezvous. It's normally if you're trying to imply something or add a little bit of mystery to whatever might be going on. The next word is sans, or as we say in English, sans or sans. In French, this means without, and that is exactly how we use it in English. I have no idea why we use it. As far as I know, that doesn't add any like level of mystery or level of suspense or anything. There's nothing that it adds to the meaning of the context. You just sometimes say sans instead of without. It's the weirdest thing actually when you think about it, but I have said it before even after I started learning French and knew that it was a French word and that it meant that. It's not one of those things you use all the time, but you just sometimes use it. It's weird. English is weird. Language is weird. Another two-word phrase that we use is doubleentendre. This is one that is not used in French as far as I know. I think the French translation is à double sens. So it means when something, a word or a phrase, has two meanings, so you can interpret it in two logical ways. It's pretty commonly used. I've used it multiple times, not just in like literary essays, but you would say it conversationally even if the occasion arose. As far as I know, this was never used in this exact context in French. It's not even something that's Old French that just modern French doesn't use. As far as I know, it's just some sort of weird translation thing. A phrase that is used in modern French that we use in English is au contraire. And this one I don't think we would use as naturally in English perhaps as some of the other ones. I think it is when you're trying to add a certain, I don't know, emphasis to your words. There's also this expression au contraire, mon frère, and that you would only say in kind of a funny situation. It sounds really gimmicky to me. It sounds like early 1900s, you know, film or something. In French, this is used quite literally as on the contrary or on the other hand. So it's used in absolutely normal conversational everyday speech, whereas in English, like a lot of these other terms, it does feel a little bit on the old-fashioned side. And I think you would only say it if you were really drawing emphasis to something. So you might actually be a little bit peeved at the person if you're gonna say au contraire. The next one is definitely one of my favorites on this list, and it's because I don't understand the pronunciation. So the word is lingerie. For anybody who has studied French, you probably already noticed the really weird thing about the pronunciation there, because in French this should be lingerie. I have no idea how this happened. I would assume that it has something to do with a lot of the French words that we borrow in English have an A sound on the end, so maybe it just sounded more French to say it like that. Honestly, I don't know. If you have any idea, let me know down in the comments below. But it's some weird thing that has happened, presumably over time, and we say lingerie. This, I'm pretty sure, has the exact same meaning in French and English. It's talking about a woman's underwear, and a lot of times we use it to refer to like the department of the store or like the section of the store. So we say the lingerie section. If you're talking about Victoria's Secret, for example, that's a lingerie store. It sounds a little bit classy, I guess, but it's super standard, I would say. It's just for whatever reason we don't pronounce it correctly. I don't know why. An example of one of those A words would be risque. So we've borrowed a lot of things like risque, blasé. I could probably go on, but that's where my brain's decided to stop. So those two examples will be all. But I'd like to talk about risque specifically because it has a little bit of a different meaning in English and in French. So in French, this literally means risky, and it can be used in basically any sense of the word risky. But in English specifically, it is just referred to something that's a little bit sexually suggestive. So if a woman is wearing a really short dress, you could say she's dressed very risque. If someone says something that's a little bit suggestive, you might say, you know, what they said was risque. You might describe it as that. It always has something to do with something kind of suggestive in that way, and not at all just in a standard risky type of situation. So I have to be a little bit careful when I try to use this word in French, because sometimes in English it's just kind of an easy way of implying that without actually having to go into detail. Again, it has sort of that like upper class, you know, you don't quite want to say type of vibe, but when I'm speaking French and I use it, it definitely does not have the same connotation amongst French speakers, so I have to find a different way of saying it. The last one on this list is probably, yeah, it's gotta be my favorite probably on this list. An RSVP in the English-speaking world, or I guess I can only really speak for North American culture, but I'm pretty sure this is somewhat global in the English-speaking world. An RSVP is a response to an invitation. So if you send out an invitation for a birthday party, or a soiree of any sort, or a wedding, anything like that, you're gonna ask for your guests to RSVP, which means basically to tell you if they're going or not. It wasn't until somewhat recently that I discovered that this is actually an acronym for a French phrase, répondez s'il vous plaît, so respond please. I lived the first 20-something years of my life using this phrase. It's as standard as anything, and yet I'm pretty sure the majority of English speakers have no idea that this is a French phrase. We have no idea what RSVP stands for. It was the weirdest thing when I found that out. It just kind of clicked, and it's one of those moments you think, why wasn't I ever curious about this before in my life? If you're an English speaker and you had no idea, there you go. French. Those are all the words I'm going to talk about in this video because I really could just go on forever. Like I said earlier, like there are hundreds probably of words that have been borrowed from French, and some of them are very commonly used, others are just used occasionally, or maybe were used, you know, 50, 60, 100 years ago. French has been so influential, and I think, like I said, a lot of that does come from the Britain and France ties a long time ago, but a lot of it is just, especially I think during the, you know, 19th century, France was extremely influential. A lot of these words did have to do with the arts, you know, ballet, philosophy, literature, or they had to do with fashion or cuisine. That's even a French word, actually. I thought of that earlier, but food culture in general, we took so many French words. Military strategy, a lot of military terms come from France. You'll notice that when you compare these to a lot of the Anglicisms I talked about, a lot of those were very trendy words. They had to do with, you know, the internet and technology and a lot of new stuff, because that's when English has really kind of taken off and really had a global impact. But a lot of these French words are really classic. So yeah, little tangent there, but I thought it was cool. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I definitely could do another one like this because there are so many other French words. So let me know if you want to see future videos about the same topic, or I've also thought about doing Spanish words that are used in English. So let me know what you want to see and I will do more videos like this in the future. As always, thank you guys all so much for watching and I will talk to you guys soon.